welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Roti. I am joined alongside London Beth, and today we were not expecting to have a podcast today in regards to the Chicago Bulls, but the Bulls have been very busy so far this morning. The morning of March 25th, 2021, the Bulls landed, and I have the tweet out ready to say it. Everyone knows who he is, just pronouncing his name right. Nikola Vucevic, nicknamed Vooch. Two-time All-Star from yeah, thank you. Two-time All-Star from the Orlando Magic, clearing up cap space. Just a huge blockbuster trade for the Chicago Bulls that we were not expecting. He really wasn't in Bulls trade talks over the last couple of weeks. It's been more so around Lonzo Ball, but man, it's been a busy morning for the Bulls and also going out and getting Mo Wagner and Troy Brown. So holy wow, we have a lot to talk about today, but London, I want to hear your initial reaction the second that you saw the news this morning, because I know you weren't expecting it either, but let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, we've been talking on the podcast throughout the past couple months just about the different things Billy Donovan's been doing, the front office has been doing for the Bulls, the benching Wendall Carter and, Kobe White and all these other guys, and just really liking what they're doing. Once I saw them get Nicole the Wolf, I was just like, this is an actual relevant and going to be in the future dominant organization, and I'm very excited. I was very excited, and again, all I could think of is just Billy Donovan, Godfather, sitting on his chair, petting his cat, just pumped as all heck.
Yeah, no, I think that this was a total move, and London was saying this before, that the Bulls front office and, Billy Donovan are saying, we're getting rid of all the, the bad blood that's in here right now. We're getting rid of the bad seeds. We're keeping the good, and we're dwelling with the bad. And that's what the Bulls have done. They've already gotten rid of 4 players this morning, which is great. And we're super excited about it. I had the same initial reaction. I got 2 texts from Eddie Hilo and my buddy Tayo. They were saying, have you seen Twitter today? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? They're like, go look, we got Vooch. And I'm like, no, we didn't. Like, there's no way. Like, that was not even a discussion. It was a total, under the table move by the Bulls, and I'm all about it. The Bulls are now going to be much more competitive. London and I have been saying on podcasts in the past that the Bulls needed to get that compliment to Zach LaVine, someone that now during crunch time in the final seconds, you have 2 people you need to worry about. Now you have LaVine on the outside, you have Vooch on the inside. So super duper big trade. I'm all about it. There was also another trade with the Washington Wizards that sent Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchinson straight up for a player-for-player trade for Mo Wagner, a center, and Troy Brown, another strong forward. So a lot going on this morning. Vooch is obviously the big deal, but let's go into trade breakdowns. So the first trade, obviously this morning, was with the Orlando Magic, sending Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and our 2021 and 2023 first-round picks. Now, before everyone goes, oh my gosh, like, why are we giving up early assets? It's a good thing. It's a good thing that we're getting rid of those picks for, established talent. And I mean, and in return, the Bulls get, Vooch and London. You got to help me out with this name.
Al-Farouq Aminu.
There we go. Okay. London's the name guy in regards to this. I'm just reading the trade straight up. It's a great depth guy. So we got a top 5 center, something that the Bulls have been missing for so long that London and I have been talking about. And then they got more depth, but also they cleared up cap in this whole trade, which is crazy. And they actually cleared up cap for years to come. Before we get into that though, then the second trade with the Washington Wizards was center Daniel Gafford and power forward Chandler Hutchinson. Power forward, strong forward Chandler Hutchinson for center Mo Wagner and strong forward Troy Brown. So, London, what are your thoughts on the Wizards trade? I know that you think. Well, give me the breakdown. What do you think of both trades for both teams?
Yeah, so starting with the Wizards trades, getting rid of Wendell Carter. We all thought it was coming. We all wanted it to come. It came, thank God. I wish him the best, but he just was not the player we were hoping for. Again, like we stated before, the JPACs, just miss picks that have been going on for the past gosh knows how many years. We're just getting rid of them, and I'm happy to see it. Otto Porter, that's probably the best thing. getting rid of that contract. He's been injury prone. He's not the player we thought. Honestly, I hated the trade when he came from the Wizards. I thought he was really overrated, and I thought he was just had a couple, a good season, and then all of a sudden he gets paid huge. And it was just that contract was killing us. The 2 first-round picks, the 2021 and 2023 first-round picks that are protected lightly for top 4 to top 5. Listen, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, why are we mortgaging the future? Why are we doing this? Yada, yada, bing, bang. Listen, the 2021 players and the prospects that are coming out of college, if your name is not Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State, you're really not going to be, I would say even a day one starter in the NBA. It's just a light draft. It doesn't really have a ton of superstars coming out. And then in 2023, looking down the pipeline, there's not just the Zion Williams. There's not just the ginormous names that really have popped up yet. And so getting a solid center and a great 6-man to role player in Al-Farouq Aminu is just phenomenal. Also, and this is a big thing that I loved, Nicole's contract is very, 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 very friendly for signing Zach LaVine to a really, really good long deal. For the next couple of years, it goes down a couple million. It's a really awesome contract. The Magic actually did a really great job with that. And it helps us because next year when we do have to sign Zach LaVine, which I think now we should, I had no doubt about that at all. That contract helps us a lot. With Otto Porter's contract, we would have been screwed.
No,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
absolutely love the trade. Magic are in a full rebuild, and it's just great to see the Bulls organization being that team that can go out and pick off the teams that are trying to rebuild and take their best players instead of us being that team for the past gosh knows how many years. And then the second trade, just again, getting rid of J-Pax's, terrible draft picks. And honestly, I liked Mo Wagner at Michigan. I think he was on the team that won the national championship. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I didn't have time to do some research before we quickly hopped on here. And Troy Brown, really young, small forward, averaging about 10 points. So he maybe has a little bit of upside as a role player and stuff like that. But overall, the Bulls, honestly, and it's phenomenal. I love that Nicole the Wolf is here. I think Billy Donovan, it fits him well in Florida and the Thunder with at the Thunder with that team. He needed a big man. He needed a versatile person, and he just got that to pair him. I'm wearing my Bears stuff because I thought we were gonna do a Bears thing on Andy Dalton, and screw it. I can X this out and put a good old Bulls thing right there.
Yeah, so kind of what you said, the contract is just super attractive. It goes down as his career not as his career goes on, but as his contract goes on, it gives the ability to be able to sign more free agents or give your guys like Zach LaVine a bigger contract. I think that the Bulls are definitely setting themselves up for success with this. And again, those later round picks, so those first round picks are going to become later in the first round when you have a better team, in theory, unless you're the Lakers back in 2010, when Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, like Kobe, like all these great players got together and became worse. I don't see that happening with the Bulls because there's not too many superstars on one team. The Bulls needed this for Zach LaVine. The Bulls needed this for Thad Young. The Bulls needed this for Kobe White. They needed that guy to come in and lead, but also a non-injury prone center who Wendall Carter Jr. Wendell Carter Jr., when he played, was a fine player. Not saying he was an NBA great, but he was fine. He did what he had to do. Teams had to plan around him. But now teams are going to go, if we don't block Vooch, who are we going to guard? Who's going to guard LaVine? Vice versa. It's much harder now, and that creates that versatility. It opens up plays for other players. Faster offenses. And like you were saying, Billy Donovan likes just big, tough centers. And that's what he had in Steven Adams and Serge Ibaka, like when back in the Oklahoma Thunder days, And
Joakim Noah at Florida.
Serge
Ibaka is a really good, honestly. Serge Ibaka is a really good point there because Serge Ibaka kind of played, he was like 6'9", 6'10", little undersized, but could shoot the three, like Nicole, played really, really, really stout defense, I think he had a ton of blocks, and actually was a little bit of the backbone to that Thunder team with a young Westbrook and a young Harden and a young Kevin Durant. So I expect him to kind of use Nicole that same way as like that X Factor player where, it's hard to cover him, and he's having a phenomenal year. It's just Whew.
Yeah, can't be you can't beat it. This trade was a win for the Bulls. You know, the Magic, if they're looking to rebuild, sure, they did the right thing on paper, but you just improved a young Bulls team who can make a lot of noise over the next couple of years if they continue to make moves like they have been doing this morning. The Bulls aren't done. The Bulls are not done making moves. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But like, you know, like we were saying, like I was saying, injury prone Wendall Carter Jr., see you later. A cap eater and Otto Porter Jr. also, you know, a guy that never seemed to gel with anyone. You know, you look
Yeah.
at the court and you don't think of Otto Porter Jr. on the Bulls. You know, you don't see Zach LaVine like, you know, dabbing it up with him or like hanging out or like whatever. Otto Porter Jr. was just here collecting a paycheck and living in a fun city. You know, I mean, he had plenty of fun. You know, he was out partying, breaking COVID protocol when he had all those months to break protocol. In fact, there was no protocol for him because he was in the off season. And the off season begins the first day. He's out at a party, at a packed party at, you know, during the height of COVID. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're not representing the team well. You're not representing the coach well. And Otto Porter Jr. was out at the beginning of the season. We all knew that he was probably going to be gone at the trade deadline, especially with that contract. Perfect for a rebuilding team, 1-year contract. There is no chance the Magic are going to re-sign him, even if it was for half the money. I don't see Otto Porter Jr., you know, being a big free agent this upcoming year because, like
Yeah.
you said, he had one good year. So
Yeah,
overall,
I think they're trying to buy him out, actually. I think they're trying to get rid of him.
wouldn't even be shocked. And
I wouldn't either, yeah. And I agree with you. He really didn't do much. And like I said, he was at a club with Costco Prosecco, which again, I'm a Costco member. I absolutely bleed Costco. I love it. But if I'm an NBA player that's getting paid Otto Porter Jr. money, and don't get me wrong, Costco's Prosecco is phenomenal for $5 a bottle.
yeah,
He's spraying Costco Prosecco everywhere, breaking protocol. It's like, what? Like, at least get some, like, Don Perignon or something, you
I
know?
think he had a bottle of Hennessy over there, right? He had a bottle of Ciroc and Hennessy in his hand, and then the period, and he was like dancing around.
The Bulls are paying you more money than you're worth. You might as well get some good stuff for it. Like, clearly that showed that he knew he got overpaid, so.
He didn't care about this team at all. If he cared about the Bulls, he would go through his injuries and play through them. But overall, good riddance, guy. Like, no Bulls fans really going to miss you. I wonder how many Bulls jerseys were sold of Otto Porter Jr. I would say maybe like 5, and they were all bought for himself. So, you know, the other trade too, I'm going to miss Daniel Gafford. I know that we kind of talked about it. He's a skinnier center, but he was lanky. He played with a lot of pride. He reminded me of Taj Gibson. But, you know, hopefully this Mo Wagner will come in and do it. I like that the team stayed young. We didn't trade away like for older. Sure, Vooch is older, but he's experienced, and that's what the Bulls were missing. When you only have Thad Young doing it, it's not the same. But now you have 2 leaders that can communicate in the locker room. You've never heard Vooch having any beef with anyone in recent years, at least.
I've heard really good things.
He's a great teammate.
Orlando Magic,
He's a great teammate.
Yeah, they've talked about, like, the Orlando Magic came out, and we're talking, I think, this morning after the trade, and they only said really high praises about him.
Right.
Not only on the court, but off the court. They said he was a great, like, locker room guy. And, like, that's really, like, because we've only had Zach LaVine, and I think that's really what we needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I honestly, yeah, high praises. I mean, and that's, I mean, Orlando Magic, whatever, but, I mean,
and it's
that's
not
good.
like a Dwayne Wade move like a couple years ago. You're bringing in or like Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo, Jimmy Butler. It's not a move like that where on paper it looks sexy, because it does look sexy on paper, but on the court right now, it looks great. You had an aged Dwayne Wade. You had a Rajon Rondo that shocked people in the playoffs, but then was always injury prone. Yeah. So this move is for the future. There's a lot of years left on his contract. We have until the end of 2023. Overall, great move because the Bulls are now entering win now mode. Now I think that the Bulls in London, I know you can speak to this. I think that the Bulls are going to make the playoffs this year. You know, they're on the bubble right now, but this was the push that they needed, and teams are going to, if we would have had them against Cleveland last night, there's no doubt the Bulls would have won that game. That was just a bad game by the Bulls last night. And they need a consistency guy because LaVine can go cold. Kobe can go cold. The only consistency guy really was Thad. And now that you have Vooch, you have another consistency guy, a double-double guy. Things are going to happen to this team that we've been waiting to unlock. And the moves aren't even done yet, which is what we're going to get into next. But, you know, other moves that the Bulls are potentially going to make is Lonzo Ball. I'll get into my take on that. London, what moves do you want to make that haven't been talked about yet or are currently being talked about?
Yeah, I actually like the Gary Trent Jr. from the Trailblazers. I know he's kind of been on the market, and the Bulls have talked about. I think the Bulls talked about maybe sending Lauri Markkanen for him. I really like that, and I actually like that one better than Alonzo Ball. Not a
Sure.
big fan of Alonzo Ball's half court ability. Yeah, he's flashy in the full court. Half court wise, kind of falls apart. Unless we turn into a really, really push offense, I really don't see. I think the Pelicans are going to hold him hostage and try to get the most amount they can, and I think that's just not something that the Bulls should do. I mean, he hasn't
No.
played well with Zion Williams or Brandon Ingram. So what makes you think that Nicole and Zach LaVine are going to be any different? I like Gary Trent Jr. He's shooting really well. He's a young player that can play kind of that shooting guard, point guard. And he's a very, 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 very good shooter from the outside 3-point range. And I think having a knockdown shooter on the team is quietly something that I think would bring a lot of versatility to our offense. And I think he's better than Colby White right now.
Yes.
And so, and that's a big thing. So I would like to see that. I think a Gary Trent Jr. trade would be honestly the cherry on top for me. If we went and got Lonzo Ball, I mean, everybody's going to be super hyped. And I see a lot of Bulls fans on Twitter like begging for Lonzo Ball. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. I don't think that he's as dynamic as half the point guards, especially in the half court. So
He's a great defender. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think
He's
they're
a great
done.
defensive point guard.
Yeah, I don't think they're done, but I would like to see somebody more like Gary Trent Jr. To come onto this team than Alonzo Ball.
Yeah, you know me. I don't like Ball. I think that he was an overhyped guy. His dad annoys me. Like, just that's not something that the Bulls need. The Bulls don't need a big mouth walking in. That's not what the Bulls are about now. And they're finding their way. And Vooch is not a big mouth either. He's just a guy that goes on the court and gets the job done. That's what we need. Okay. And Ball, I don't think has lived up to his potential at all. I know that I believe he was teammates with LaVine at UCLA, which fine, great. And people just want the name on the team. I'm more about championships. And, he is not the answer at point guard. And that's kind of like what we've been talking about. LaVine was the answer at shooting guard. He's become the answer. He wasn't the answer at first, but he's become the answer. Vooch is the answer at center. Thad Young is the answer at 6-man. Billy Donovan's answer at coach. Point guard being as important as it is in today's league, you can't swing and miss like the Bears, like quarterback. You can't swing on miss on these key positions, especially in Billy Donovan's type of offense. And I think that getting Ball would be a mistake. It would be something to please the fans, which I think the fans would be more pleased in years to come if we win championships over just getting a guy to enjoy for a couple days. And then everyone starts going, oh, this guy sucks. Like, what happened? Like, look at his stats. He's not an all-star. He's not an all-star. If we're going to give up first-round picks, go get an all-star. And that's honestly why I think the Bulls kept their first-round pick in 2022, just in case they have the opportunity to go out and get a guy like you're talking about from Portland. Or, in my opinion, I would like to go the cheap route and see if we can go out and get Kyle Lowry. Because I know Kyle Lowry is on, being shopped because of his age and his contract. If the Bulls can get a deal where Toronto chews up a lot of the contract, we don't give up a first-round pick. I would not give up a first-round pick for Kyle Lowry. But you give up Thomas Satoransky. You give up, some money, maybe a second-round pick in a couple of years. And
Might have to
get
give up
Kyle
Colby
Lowry.
White.
What's up?
Might have to give up Colby White.
You might have to give up Colby White. But if you go out and get a guy who has won a championship, plays with a lot of heart, I think that speaks more volumes. And that's something that the Bulls are missing. No one on their roster has ever played in a title game or been on a title team. We did have a guy from the Lakers last year, but we got rid of him. And then Temple, I don't think Temple's ever been on a championship team either. So, sure, playoffs, absolutely. We've had guys in the playoffs before, but we haven't had guys on a championship team. And that speaks volumes because that shows they know what it takes to get to that level. And I think Kyle Lowry would be a great veteran pickup because he's still decently young enough and can still ball, but it's a very big stretch. I just would not want Lonzo Ball for a first-round pick. Get him for cheap, by all means, I'll take it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I think the biggest thing is no matter who they get, we need to make a push now. I mean, I'm looking at right now behind the thing right here. I'm looking at the rest of our schedule. It's actually a decently tough schedule.
Yes.
We play the Celtics a couple times. We play the Utah Jazz a couple times. The Hornets are not bad, even though now they lost LaMelo. So like we have a decently tough schedule down the stretch here. So I'm glad that makes me even happier that we call the Wolf. But we're sitting right now in the East at 10. We're 11 games from the number 1 seed, but like we're probably 3 games from competing for like the Celtics, Hawks, that kind of thing. I think the Hornets are going to fall off a little bit. They're at 4 right now. So I can see them kind of falling off now that, LaMelo's out. But the problem is we just need to start winning some games. I mean, Celtics are not a great team. The Hawks, I don't think, are a great team. Hornets, I don't think, after losing LaMelo, are that dynamic. I can see the Knicks probably staying in contention around the middle. We just need to make a push now.
But we're in the East. I mean, think about it. You just said that the Hornets are in 4 and they're 22 and 21. It's anyone's conference, really.
Yeah, we can't lose to the Cavaliers again.
No,
we can't be losing to the Cavaliers again. Like it's now is this kind of push right here where I think Billy in the front office saw, hey, we can make a push for the playoffs. Let's do it. I'm going to watch every single game, and we can't lose to the Cavaliers.
No,
we can't be. It can't.
You can't.
They'll kill us.
Again, they've lost to the Cavs. I think this is the second time they've lost to the Cavs this year, and I believe the first time they did have
the Cavs are a good young team, and they have some talent, but we are a lot better of a team than them.
Yes, better coach, better talent
of contention if we keep losing to teams like the Cavaliers.
Yeah, so there's probably going to be more buzz. We're probably going to end up missing on a trade or two in this podcast, but just to get the breakdown really fast about how important the first 2 trades were to this young Bulls team. It's been definitely, hats off to the front office, hats off to Billy Donovan. They are doing what they need to do in order to become a winning team again. And that's something that Chicago needs. The Blackhawks are skidding. The Bulls are disappointing, or the Bears are disappointing fans right now. The White Sox just had a huge injury, and the Cubs, who knows what the Cubs are going to do. So the Bulls making this trade just brought some life to Chicago. And that's something that's super exciting, especially on Madison Street. So with that, we're closing today's episode. Again, big news, excited for the Vooch to be in Chicago. I'm excited for it. London's excited for it. And hopefully, like London said, we have a tough schedule coming up, and this is going to help put us over the top and get us back in the playoff race. Again, thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Nick Roti with my co-host London Beth, and we will see you guys next time.